If elementary school students couldn't grade one another's papers, we would have to change elementary education. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think that there is and was great concern leading up to the Owasso Supreme Court decision in 2002, which looked at peer grading. It looked at, okay, kids, you finished the math quiz. Now, Billy, give your paper to Susie. Susie, give your paper to Billy. And now I'm going to go through. There was concern that FERPA prohibited peer grading because there is creation of a grade. That grade is not there at the beginning, but when we get through the 10 questions and now Billy knows how Susie did, there is a grade. What the Supreme Court concluded was there was no grade being maintained. There was no progress information being maintained. That peer grading actually is pre-grade, although in reality a grade's being generated. But that under the circumstances, there is not a concern, maybe more broadly, of an individual, a third party outside of the learning environment, accessing student progress or grade information. And that learning elbow to elbow, peers, seeing the performance of peers, FERPA doesn't envision that we're educating our students in cubbyholes or bubbles where their peers are not aware of their performance. So peer grading, not a problem. We need to be mindful of all personally identifiable information as it relates to students and keep an eye on who has the need to know with regard to student work in schools. So that means that we're not putting lists of grades in hallways. That means that at times you may see student ID number. Similarly, when we talk about IEP status, talk about 504 status, personally identifiable, we need to be mindful as to who has access to that information that there's a need to know. But when we talk about student confidentiality and we talk about FERPA, that's the biggest question. Putting aside definitions, putting aside case law, putting aside regulations, educators stay safe by asking the question, what's the need to know? Because if there's a need to know, likely there's a right to know. Educators should not be worried about putting artwork up. Educators should not be worried about the videotaping of the amazing musical production and sharing that video in a hallway. Educators should not be worried about the information that is shared in a positive fashion with regard to day-to-day activity within the school setting. What we need to be mindful of is information that's diagnostic, information that is assessment, information that is medical, information that's evaluative in the special education process or the 504 process, information about orientation, information about gender, considerations today of students transitioning and our transgender persons in our schools. If the information feels like it should be confidential, it should be confidential. But the kind of information that we share, that we're proud of, student performance and progress with regard to created acts and works, we may freely share.